Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I hope everyone had a fantastic Easter. I know I had a great one with my family. I actually took a couple extra days and went to Oak Island, which is in Brunswick County, and we had a beach house and with two other families that have a bunch of kids like I do, and we had a blast. And as you can imagine, being in a beach house with a couple families and a lot of kids, I was excited to get back to the office and start working today. So I want to continue. This is the second week of our 12 weeks to total immersion, really looking for, looking to give you information that you can apply to your business that'll help you generate momentum. So in doing so, I like to keep things simple. Now, I probably say that all the time. I probably say, gosh, I like to keep things simple. And I do mean that, but I also want you to understand that I'm not trying to keep it simple because I'm trying to quote unquote dummy it down for real estate agents. That's actually not what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep it simple because if I make it complicated, I myself won't even do it. Okay? Because if it just is too robust and too complicated, it's like, gosh, I don't have time for that. So the simplicity or the reason that I focus on simple is because I know that these are, our tips, our tasks, our strategies that you can actually do very quickly without a lot of planning. Now, of course, we can go deeper and I can put out some very elaborate plans. And at some point, I may do some things like that. But, I believe that following a few simple rules or completing a few simple tasks consistently is really what the top producers are doing. That's what the agents that are doing big production are doing all across the country. They're not overcomplicating things. So, I in my notes here, I just reminded myself that, as you know, one of the big benefits of being in the real estate industry is the freedom that we get. We get freedom of schedule. We don't really have a boss. No one can tell us what to do. No one can tell us when to do it. Now, that's one of the major reasons that influences people to get into the real estate business. Unfortunately, it's actually one of the biggest reasons that people fail out of the real estate business or don't succeed at the level that they really expected or want. They don't reach their goals. In other words, sometimes when we have ultimate freedom, we take advantage of that and we become a little bit complacent, or, maybe like your typical real estate agent around the country might sleep in till, say, 9 o'clock. They may show up to the office a few times a week by 11, 11:30 or 1 o'clock. Then they'll go to lunch and take, a 2-hour lunch. And then they'll spend, a lot of time on social media, just kind of seeing what their friends are doing. Like, that's a product of too much freedom. It's like too much freedom allows for that. Like, if we had to clock in and we had to clock out, you would not be able to work that type of schedule. Now, again, most people got into real estate because they didn't want to have to be held accountable to a strict schedule. I get that, but there are some values. There is a value to having a schedule that you follow, or working off of a checklist, or having what I call a morning routine. So today I want to talk about a productive daily checklist and something that a checklist, a productive weekly checklist. Now the difference in a daily and a weekly is a daily needs to be done every day, and a weekly are things that you don't necessarily wouldn't be able to or wouldn't need to do every day, but need to be done at least once a week. So I want to kind of go through the checklist, and I will say this too is, out of all the agents that I've coached through the years and the involvement that I've had around the coaching companies and seeing thousands and thousands of coaching clients, I've always noticed there's a distinction that between the, say, an average agent and a higher producing agent. And that is that the top producer is following some sort of routine. And the average agent really doesn't have a routine. But here's another interesting thing that I figured out with these agents, the difference between the two, is both, whether they're producing at a lower level or producing at a higher level, they're both working the same amount of hours, relatively speaking. I mean, I'm taking out part-timers but I'm talking about people that are doing full-time work and doing, a little bit lower end of the scale of production versus the full-time agents that's doing top production. They're actually working the same. The difference is, or they're working the same, or the top producer's working a little bit less. The difference is that they're very robotic and consistent about what they're working on. So the person who's, out there, producing a little bit lower level, it's like they're constantly trying to chase an opportunity over here or put a fire out over here. They're kind of like, as the wind blows, they have to turn in that direction. Now, the top producer, with the fire, if they have to put a fire out or they're an opportunity, it's all normal to them, and they may have set up some structures that if there is a problem, this is how it is handled, and there's a routine there, or they have a staff member, assistant, that will actually put out that fire for them. So it's not that they're working less, but what I find fascinating is that they're not working more. They're just very consistent at what they work on. So I'm going to give you a simple checklist, daily checklist, that you can work on, that I believe you will even agree that if you did this on a daily basis, or even half of this on a daily basis, you would see a difference in your business. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one here is, and this is not necessarily in a particular order, but the first one here is spend 10 minutes at the beginning of your day organizing your leads. Spend 10 minutes at the beginning of your day organizing your leads. Because what happens is we open up our folder or we open up the computer in the, at a time where we're like, okay, well, I think I'm going to start calling some of my leads. And we look, and then we start scanning it. Well, no, I talked to them the other day, and no, they're probably not that serious, or this person's long-winded, I don't want to talk to him or her. And so we go through this process, right, where we actually look at our leads and we make up all these stories about them. And then some of them we put on the right side, say, I'm not going to call them today, I'll call them next week. Some of them we put on the left side, I'm going to call them today, right? The problem is that a lot of times agents are doing that task, they're doing it at the wrong time, and it's an interruption of their natural flow of doing business. And when you take 10 minutes at the beginning of your day to organize all your leads for the day, like I'm going to call these and I'm going to call this one, and you get them in a pile, you may not call them right there at that minute. That could be done at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:45 or 9, whenever the first thing that first time that you get to the office. You organize those leads, and what we find is you can organize all of your leads for the day in 10 minutes or less. But if you actually wait to right before you're going to start making calls and follow-ups to those leads, it'll take more than 10 minutes. And it'll look like this. You'll open up your file or your computer, you'll call one, and then you'll make notes, and then you'll look at the next one, skip, read the notes, skip, read the notes, okay, call this one. And it's an accumulation of all those little times that you're pausing, doing something that's not actually reaching out to them. It's kind of the prep time. That adds up over time to be more than 10 minutes. And it also breaks your rhythm. It breaks your rhythm. When you have one call and to the next call, to the next call, to the next call, you start generating momentum, you start generating confidence, and your conversations build and you get stronger and stronger, and the results are better. So number one on the checklist is spend 10 minutes organizing your leads, and do that first thing in the morning. Number two, again, not in order of importance, but number two is send 20 text messages to old buyer leads. Now, those 20 text messages should be the same text message. You just copy and paste it to 20 different leads, and you do that every single day, 5 days a week. That would be 100 texts. I've talked to you about texting old buyer leads in the past, and anyone that has actually taken that on has seen results. And what's interesting is you're going to see results every single time. It's not one of these ideas that you actually take on, you get a result, and then you don't do it again. No, this becomes a routine. You do this every day, you're going to generate engagement and activity and set appointments consistently. And that's what's critical. That's what the daily checklist is all about. Simple tasks you can follow to create consistent momentum. Send 2 texts out to centers of influence or your past clients. So take your centers of influence, and these are the areas, and I know some people have went through the Buffini training, and y'all are doing really good at this, but overall, this is one of the most neglected areas of our business. And I know that centers of influence and past clients, we all know that it's a great resource of business, but it's one that we kind of take for granted and think, well, they'll just call us whenever they need something. But the challenge is when they're out there, you know, and they don't need something, they're being bombarded by all these other companies and our competitors, real estate agents, offering incentives and I'll give you this, I'll pay for this, I'll do anything to earn your business. And there's a portion of your centers of influence that if you're not reaching out to touch them, you will lose that business. They will go to somebody else. And not because they're disloyal, it's because they eventually were convinced that there was a better value somewhere else. And they went ahead and did the responsible thing in their minds, which is do business with somebody else that was going to deliver more value. So what we have to do is make sure that we're communicating with our centers of influence. So instead of trying to figure out, well, what's the centers of influence plan? For most people, if you would just have a checklist that said how to, text 2 centers of influence / past clients and have a little box here and you check it off. And every single day, you actually pull that checklist up on your computer, or I would say you actually print off, 25 of them, have them with you at all times. And every day you should pull one of these checklists out and work on checking this off every single day and watch what happens to your business. The next one here, number 4, I've got posting a property on Facebook. Now, we've talked about that too, but I want to add something to this. And then send a direct message to every person that liked it and every person that it was shared with. Now, I shared this with somebody about a week or 2 ago in the Myrtle Beach office, and where I just happened to be, looking on Facebook, and I saw that he had posted a property on Facebook, and then that property was shared to 2 other people. And the way it was shared is they just, in the comments, one person who saw it typed in someone else's name and said, you need to check this out. Now, when you see that, here's what that means. That means that John Doe, who saw the ad, looked at that property, the picture and the information, and automatically remembered that one of their friends is looking for a property that is similar to that, and they wanted to make sure that that friend got that information. So all you have to do is when you see that one person is sharing that Facebook post to somebody else, then you can then click on that person's name that it was shared to, send them a message, and the message can say, let's just say their name is Jane. Hey, Jane, I posted a property on Facebook. I noticed that Susan shared it with you. I have all the information on that. Text me at this number if you would like to take a look at it, or you just want some additional information. And then he ended up setting an appointment with that particular person that it was shared to. So I thought about this and I said, well, isn't it logical that usually when we share something to somebody, it's because they would have some sort of interest on that. Now, if it's a $5 million, if it's Michael Jordan's $20 million home in Italy and everybody's sharing it, then they're just actually wanting to look and see what a $20 million house looks like, right? So maybe that's not as valuable of a scenario versus when you're posting one of your listings and it's being shared. Look at that information. I'm telling you, there's opportunity there. So do that once a day. Number 5, call 5 for sale by owners. Just put it on your list to call 5 for sale by owners. Well, somebody could be saying, well, I don't really work with listings. Yes, but you have buyers that you're frustrated with because you can't find them the right property right now. And you could go on Zillow or for sale by owner websites and you could see a property right there that buyer might have an interest in. Call the for sale by owner, let them know you have a buyer, see if you could work out a one-time showing agreement. The key is Call 5 for sale by owners every day and watch what happens to your business. Whether you're trying to get a one-time showing agreement for a buyer you have, or whether you're out there trying to show them that you have a better way, a more aggressive way of marketing the property so you can help them get it sold. The key is daily checklist. Add 10 emails to your CRM every single day. Add 10 people to your CRM so you can start dripping on them. Well, Greg, where am I going to find those? Well, if you call a for sale by owner, there would be an opportunity. If you actually did this Facebook post and direct message some people, you would probably get some email address. They'd probably say, just email me some information. You're probably working with mortgage brokers, attorneys, home inspectors that are not in your database, but they deal with buyers and sellers every day and have an opportunity to refer business to real estate agents. Get them in your database. Watch, when you set a goal every day to add 10 people to your database, you'll add way more people to your database on a daily basis when you don't have that daily goal. Next, add 5 prospects to your market or sold activity reports, whether you use Real Geeks or whether you use KV Core. Go in there and make sure that out of the emails that you're getting, add 5 people, set them up on a community sold search, a market report of some sorts. Not only you add the databases to your add emails to your database, but then take the ones that are documented property owners, people who own property already, and then set them up to get a monthly report, like a CMA or a sold report on what's going on in the community that they own. See, that's delivering information that has value to a consumer. While your competition might be delivering things that are just with the intent to touch them, what we're going to do is we're going to touch them with value, not touch them with warm and fuzzy, touch them with real value. People look and say, well, gosh, Zillow seems to be one of those websites that everyone goes to. Why? Because the people that go there sense that it has a value. They can see what properties is worth, right? Not that we believe it's accurate, but they feel like because that information's there, that's a value. We should learn lessons, from Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia, and go ahead and make sure that we're delivering that value, but we can deliver it from the MLS and it's much more accurate. 5 a day, load them into your system. Listen, here's one that's a little bit different. Most people don't really do this, is listen to 20 minutes of a real estate podcast. Now, the key is everyone's in the car for 20 minutes. Everybody's in the car for 20 minutes. Go to podcasts. They're free on your phone, no matter if you use a Samsung or Android or an Apple product. What you can do is there's a podcast section. Look up some podcasts. Look up, hey, the Level Up podcast that I do would be helpful. Tom Ferry podcast, Mike Ferry podcast, Buffini, Real Geeks, you name it. There are podcasts out there that have great content that you could listen to every day for 20 minutes while you're driving. You're just replacing the radio with a podcast. Now what you're doing is you're feeding your mind, getting additional ideas on how to build your business. Every single week that you do this, you'll come up with one more idea, or you'll come up with something that makes something you're already doing a little bit better. So if it's not a new idea, you might enhance one of the ideas that you're already executing right now. Continue to go ahead and put a property every single day on Facebook Marketplace. We've talked about that many times, but it's got to be on the checklist. Put a property on Craigslist every single day. It's got to be on the checklist. And then, of course, I would never, complete a checklist without this. Make a minimum of 30 or 20 outbound contacts every day. Every single day. You've got to remember, one thing that's great about real estate, yet is also challenging about real estate, is you wake up every day at 0. When you wake up, it's a new day. You've got nothing. And that's by default. You don't have a choice. When you wake up, the buyer deal that you did yesterday was yesterday's buyer deal. The listing deal or the listing that you took yesterday was yesterday's business. Today, you wake up and you're at 0. Now, what you have to do is you have to decide, though. It's not a choice whether you wake up at 0 or not. We start over at 0 every day by default. But it is a choice as to if you go to sleep at 0. So what we want to do, though, to make sure that when we go home at night, when we go to bed, that we created something, we have to be proactively doing things to control our destiny versus waiting for others to actually deliver it to us. In other words, a Facebook ad, great. But that's just do something and then wait. And we may get a lead, we may not get a lead. But one thing we may talk to somebody, we may not talk to somebody. But when you add outbound lead generation prospecting to your daily checklist, then every day you're actually controlling whether or not you talk to people. And we know it's a numbers game. The more people we talk to, the more business that we're going to do. So it's got to be on the checklist that you've got to make X amount of outbound contacts every single day. That's how you build a big business for yourself. And last but not least, and this should probably be the first thing that you do during the day, at least it is for me, and that is, besides wake up, and that is get some sort of exercise. I'm not concerned if you go to the gym, walk your dog, go for a jog, ride your bike, chase your kids around the house before school. Whatever you want to do, get the blood flowing. If you'll get up earlier, get a little bit of exercise, get your blood flowing, then you'll start to feel more motivated to get into the office and execute this checklist. Again, these are the things that I'm telling you top producers are doing on a daily basis. They don't even have to think of it. It's like embedded into their subconscious mind that if they don't do these things, then that's like a day not worked, or that day was a failure. And there's going to be times where you're going to do all these things and you get nothing. And there's going to be times where you do these things and you get something, and maybe even something plus. But when you do these things daily over the course of an entire year, you build a big business for yourself. Now, you may say, well, Greg, I don't really want to do 75 deals a year. That's fine. Then do this checklist and get to the level that you want to get to. And then maybe you'll only have to do 7 of the items out of the 14 or 8 items out of the 14. I mean, you can design your business however you want to do it. Or you might actually continue to do this checklist, build your business a little bit further, and then get an assistant to help you do all the things that maybe you don't really want to be doing throughout the day, and leverage somebody else so you can continue to either build your business bigger or maintain your business and take more time off. For me, that's what I like to do. I actually like to work really, really hard and be very intense about executing my checklist so I could go home earlier in the day. So I would start at 5 in the morning with my exercise, and I'd get some things done. The podcast would be out of the way. The exercise would be out of the way. The looking over my leads and getting organized, that would be out of the way. By the time I got to the office at 7:45, 3 or 4 of the items on my checklist were already checked off. And then the rest of the things could be done by 1 or 2 o'clock. And then I had decisions to make. If I didn't have an appointment, I could either go work more or I could decide to go home. But the key is, no matter what I chose to do, I was in control. I actually got freedom, which we all want. I actually got freedom from the execution of my checklist. That's what gave me the freedom, because I executed this checklist. I generated the revenue that I wanted to generate, which really gave me the freedom to get an assistant to help me start doing the things that I didn't really want to do, and the income to enjoy the vacations that I wanted to enjoy. So for real estate agents who really want that freedom, you got to understand it's earned freedom. It's not something that's just granted to us. It's earned. But the best way you can earn it is by executing a checklist like this. The next thing I'm going to do, and this one's very short, it's the weekly checklist. The items that I have on the weekly checklist are this: schedule an open house. Just schedule 1 open house each week. Watch what that does for your business. Now, look how this works. So you schedule that 1 open house, and then you make some calls around your open house, which then counts for the days that you have to make those outbound calls. See, scheduling that one open house will cover a couple other things if you do an open house right. It'll also, while you're making a few calls, you'll also be getting email addresses, so you could send an invitation to the open house. Now you're getting email addresses. While you're at the actual open house, fingers crossed, some people are going to come to the open house, and you're going to actually be able to get more or get more email addresses from those people. You see, so that one task that you do weekly will help you accomplish some of the other tasks that you need to accomplish on a daily basis. The next thing here, this one's a little bit different. This is probably the biggest gift I ever got from my coach, Tony DeCello, fantastic coach, very well-known real estate coach in the country. And he required me to spend 30 minutes every single day. He did this in the beginning, it was every day, and then it scaled down to about 2 times a week. But what he required me to do is actually spend 30 minutes thinking about my business. 30 minutes thinking about my business. So that needs to go on your weekly checklist. If you just spend 30 minutes thinking about your business, look at something that's frustrating you. Look at, like, you know, I keep writing offers and I keep getting beat out because of multiple offers, or I keep going on listing presentations and I don't seem to be winning them. I'm getting, outpriced. People are taking them higher than me. Whatever you might be frustrated with, how about take 30 minutes and think through it? Like, how could I increase the number of listings I take? How could I increase my contracts written to ratified ratio? Like, all of us would love to find ways to improve our businesses. But the challenge is we're always thinking about how to improve something right after we become unsatisfied with the current result we just got. It's like we get frustrated when we leave and we don't get the listing. And we're like, man, I got to get better at this. But then you've got another appointment. You don't ever do anything to get better about this. What I suggest is take 30 minutes every week and just spend it in a quiet place with a yellow notepad and write down as many ideas as you can on one subject in your business. Just take 30 minutes, write on the top of it a title. How can I increase the number of listings that I take? How can I improve my average price range? You know, how could I work with more absentee owners? How can I blank? Put that as the title and spend 30 minutes coming up with as many answers as you can. I can assure you the first 10 minutes will be a breeze, because all the ideas that you have that you've never executed, they'll be the first 10 that you put down on the paper. But once you get those that are already in your head at the forefront of your mind out on paper, you'll be challenged for the next 15 to 20 minutes, because now you're being forced to think deeper about your business than you typically do. And that's where the gold nuggets are. We as real estate agents, we don't spend enough time working on our business. We spend all of our time working in our business, and we're wondering, when are our frustrations going to end? And business people work on their business in addition to working in their business. So for the weekly checklist, put in 30 minutes of creative thinking time. And then the next one is call 10 Repos. What's a Repo? Just like a for sale by owner, a rental by owner. Somebody who's renting their property by owner. Look, if they have a vacancy, that means they have a pain. What is their pain? Negative cash flow. There's people out there that when they have negative cash flow and they experience that pain for multiple weeks or multiple months, all of a sudden they start thinking, maybe I need to get rid of that asset. There's a great untapped whole pool of listing leads in the Repos, but nobody calls them. It's very uncommon for people to call them in our industry. When I say Repos to a lot of people, most people don't know what I'm referring to. Go ahead and call 10 of those every week. You'll build your database. You'll generate leads. Nothing but opportunity will come from that. The last one here is write 5, well, no, I got 2 more. Write 5 handwritten cards to your centers of influence and past client. Look, I don't know what to say, Greg. Just say hello. I was thinking about you. I saw this card. It reminded me of you. Let me know if I can ever do anything for you. Like, we don't have to create something amazing We don't have to think of something amazing. And the reason why we don't have to think of like something amazing to say in a card is because nobody sends cards anymore. So like if you're the person that just sends a card, that makes you amazing already. And now you're at the forefront of their mind. So send 5 of those past customers, centers of influence. Maybe send it to a mortgage broker, an attorney, a home inspection person. I can assure you the home inspector person has never gotten a card. If so, very rarely do they get a card from a real estate agent saying, hey, I just wanted to say thank you. Now, they sometimes see buyers and sellers before the buyers and sellers are working with agents. If you do this, you're going to put yourself in position to win some referrals. The last one here is create a video on YouTube once a week. It's important. Everything on this checklist was all about us doing something to find somebody that we can help. A YouTube video and then posting that on social media, a video is doing something where people can find a realtor to help them. In other words, it's where they seek us out when they go to YouTube or Google and say, I'd like to know, what it takes to sell property for top dollar. So, that's something that they may do a Google search for, and then all of a sudden your video comes up and they're like, oh, that's some great information. I want to talk to them. That is a way that you can be found. We talk a lot about how we find people. Well, what if you also did some things throughout the weeks where people could find you? So if you're working on finding people and you're creating situations where people can find you, at some point in the future, those 2 roads merge and become a really good highway of opportunity for yourself. So hopefully you find that helpful. This is just a checklist. I'm going to print this out in like a checklist format and create an actual checklist, a daily and a weekly checklist. And we'll be sending that out later on in the week to everyone in the operation. And I hope you'll just take that, print off multiple copies, and just test it out for a week or 2 and see what happens. And when it works, then make it your routine. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. You guys look great. Have a great week. And if there's anything I can do, reach out to me on, by email, call, or text. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.